and it's showtime from downtown Winnipeg. Buckeyes pass, a shot, they score! Shankly Cutter scores! What a stop by Hellebuck! Nikolai Ehlers off the faceoff!
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. First of all, shout out to our buddies, Paul Edmonds and Jamie Thomas of the Flyby podcast, the partner podcast of this podcast. They've been busy working, so if you haven't had a chance to check out those episodes, they've got some great draft prep stuff that they were talking about with a couple of draft experts. Obviously, the draft coming up next week. But right now you're listening to Tyler Esquivel, myself, and Mitchell Clinton of Jets TV. The two of us are going to take you on a whimsical ride here. It's been a busy 24 hours in Jetland. The Winnipeg Jets announcing that they've hired Rick Bowness as the third head coach since relocation. So, Mitch, I'll throw things over to you first of all. We had the chance to sit and chat with Bones, as everybody's calling him. So I think that means we're allowed to call him the nickname.
I think so.
Okay, so we're just going to go with it.
Yeah, let's go with it.
Okay, so Bones met the media today. We've had some chances to talk to him away from the cameras. Just your impressions of the man that's taken over the bench.
Well, super nice guy. I mean, one of the things that really, came out from Kevin Cheveldayoff during the media availability was just the fact that this is a guy that develops relationships with his players. And you can just tell that extends outside the dressing room too. Just it seemed everybody that he talked to, he seemed to, he's very personable, easy to talk to, and really excited that he's on this episode of the podcast. Just a nice little one-on-one chat between him and I, and just kind of going over a number of things. He's been doing media all day, and we're sitting here. It's 2:05 p.m. Central Time, and I'm probably his 15th interview of the day, but you wouldn't be able to even tell. Like, he just was really fun to talk to and get into a lot of different things. But I mean, that's you'll hear that in a few minutes. But I think that's probably the big thing that came up. Just really seems like he's really into building relationships with players. But at the same time, I thought one of the more interesting things that he said throughout today was just the fact that, when he was behind the bench with the Dallas Stars playing the Winnipeg Jets last year, in comparison to where they were as a team the few years before that, just said something was missing. And sometimes you can't put the finger on it. You don't know what it is. And I remember that question being asked of a number of the players last year, like, can you put your finger on what's causing, some of the issues that they were having, whether it was defensively or sometimes, I remember a stretch in November where offensively things just weren't clicking like they normally do. And they were asked constantly, can you put a finger on it? And they couldn't. And I think that was just kind of echoed in what Rick Bowness said today. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what the next few months look like, and then what training camp looks like. But ultimately, off the start, he said in some conversations he's had with Mark Scheifele, Adam Lowry, he's trying to get in touch with Blake Wheeler. They're playing a little bit of some phone tag because of the holidays in Canada and the U.S., but he's really looking forward to talking to a lot of players. And I think, based on how the first few conversations have gone with him, those conversations will certainly go well.
Mitch isn't kidding. The man has been doing media pretty much all day. When we picked him up from the hotel this morning, I had a camera on him pretty much instantly. And, coming from Dallas, he's used to that sort of thing. And being in Winnipeg here, we've obviously been blessed with some head coaches that, know how to throw a quote out there and carry on a conversation. Paul Maurice being the golden child of that. Yeah. And then now you have Rick Bowness, who clearly is very well versed in the English language, and is a fantastic person to listen to. Okay, Mitch, I'll let you tee up your interview. You joined Rick here in the podcast studio for, what was it, you said 8 minutes?
Yeah, he's making his rounds around the building here, so he stopped in, and I have to give him credit because he was sitting in the exact seat that you're sitting in, and over our shoulder.
You didn't tell him it was my seat?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
There's this big screen. If you've been to True North Square, the big screen that plays videos and stuff like that. But one of the videos that's in rotation is like his face. So he would have been sitting looking at this screen, and no doubt seeing his face looking back at him, which I can only imagine is a little bit of a weird thing. But we talked about a number of things. Obviously, what stood out about Winnipeg, what what made him want to come back. This is a place that he's part of this organization for 9-10 years, dating back to 1980. So, what made him want to come back, what he thinks the group needs to do a little bit better going into this season, and just what the rest of his summer looks like, because there's a whole lot going on in the Bowness family right now. So he gets into that and a whole lot of other things in our little chat today.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
Hi, this is Mark Scheifele, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Happy to be joined on the Ground Control podcast by none other than Rick Bowness, the new head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. When you hear those words, what does that feel like?
Gets me very excited.
That's good.
It does, and it's been a long time since we've been here, a few years ago, but we've got great memories of Winnipeg. We're thrilled to be back in Winnipeg, and very proud to be part of the Winnipeg Jet and True North family, and very excited about the upcoming season. We've got a good young team to work with here. We've got a great fan base, so this is a very exciting time for us.
Your connection to the city, especially even I was talking to somebody in the office that was like, man, I remember being a fan of the Jets when he was here and was playing here, and you were an assistant coach here. So obviously there's a lot of connections to the city, but what was it about this team and this opportunity that really appealed to you?
Well, it goes back to a couple of things. First of all, we really wasn't looking for a job. If something came up that it was piqued my interest and we wanted to jump back into it. This job was particularly appealing for a couple of reasons. One is great people here, and the management with Chevy and Larry and Zinger, and the ownership with Mark, and just really, really good people. And my wife Judy always said that if we're going back in, we want to work with good people. So that checks that box. We want to have a chance to win. We want to have a good team. I had 3 other opportunities to go in various coaching capacities, certainly not the head coach, but they were in a rebuild, and I just really don't want to rebuild. I want to have a chance to win. So when I look at the roster and having played against them for so long, there's a really good team here. There's a great young goaltender in Connor, good young defense, lots of offensive punch up front. So the ingredients you need to win in our league are right here. It's a matter of just getting them all working together again, getting them on the same page, and just make it a little bit more competitive than we were last year. And the ties to the Winnipeg City, I worked for the Jets for 9 years in the 80s, and my daughter was born here in 1986. So, Judy always talks about the years we lived here. The kids were all young. We had a great neighborhood. The kids all had friends. Judy met a lot of really nice people outside of hockey, which is hard for us to do because of our schedule. But Judy has great memories of the city. I have great memories of the city. So that all plays a part in it. But the 2 most important things are the good people, and it's a really good team.
It's been quite the week for your family. I mean, Ryan Bowness named the assistant GM of the Ottawa Senators as well. You get the head coaching job in Winnipeg. So do you guys have to split the tab if there's a celebratory dinner coming up, or how's that going to work?
Well, there's also one other key ingredient. My son Ricky's wife, they live in Denver, and she's the vice president of suite and ticket sales for the Colorado Avalanche.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
what a run.
What a run. So she started, they won the Stanley Cup, and she was in their parade. She's having a great time. They're having fun with the city, and I was very proud of Ryan getting the assistant GM job in Ottawa, and obviously for this opportunity. So it's been a great week for the Bowness family, and listen, I'm very proud of all my kids, certainly for Jody winning, being part of that organization, Ryan, and my daughter Kristen. She works for the National Predators. She's a director of fan development and minor hockey. So there's rivals in our division. There's rivals in our family. But it's been a great week for us.
That's excellent. Sticking with the Central Division, I mean, one of the things that really stands out about the Dallas Stars, and Winnipeg Jets fans will think back to maybe the 17-18 or even prior to that when the Jets played the Dallas Stars. If the score was 7-4, people were like, man, where was the offense? Because those 2 teams just went back and forth. You go into Dallas, and over the span of the last 3 years, I believe you guys were 5th total in terms of goals against. You turn that into a team that it was very difficult to generate any chances, whether it's high danger or otherwise. What do you think that process looks like here for the Jets.
Well, if you go back to the Dallas Stars before we went in there, they could score, but they didn't win. They missed the playoffs. So probably entertaining, but the end result, and for all of us, is we want to have a chance to win.
Right.
And all you have to do is look at the last two Stanley Cup deciding games. 1-0 2 years ago, 2-1 this year. If you want to win the Stanley Cup, you have to be able to play defense. You have to be able to defend. You have to be able to keep the puck out of your net. And then obviously you've got to score goals to win as well. But playing defense, it takes a complete buy-in from every player. It's about the X and O's, but it's also about the culture. The players have to care about each other. They have to care about the outcome of the game. So we need to implement those things. I know this is a very good hockey club that for whatever reason just lost its way a little bit last year. But as I talked about earlier, they're the key ingredients here. So do we have to tighten things up? Yeah, we do. At the expense of not scoring as many goals. No, we still want to score. That's the fun part for the players. The hard work part to get the puck back when you don't have it, we have to implement that attitude and that philosophy in training camp. But when we get the puck, we want to be creative. We want to hang on to it. We want to make plays. That's the fun part of the game. But you do not win in our league unless you can play defense. In Colorado, you look at the great year they had, all kinds of goals. They won the Stanley Cup with a 2-1 game. You have to be comfortable in those games. Clearly, you want to score 4 or 5 goals. You want to do that. But clearly, you are not going to win in our league unless you can defend and keep the puck out of your net.
Just a few more for you. Scott Arniel named as an associate coach in your staff, obviously someone that you're familiar with. What role do you see him having, or are kind of the responsibilities on the bench still kind of being worked out depending on who you bring in? You mentioned earlier today you might bring in another couple people on the bench.
No, with Arnie, listen, we played together in I played a few games with him in 1981. I coached him with the Jets, coached him with Boston. We've had a good friendship over all these years, and he was my first call without a doubt. We've kept in communication over the years. We're good friends, and he's a really, really good coach. And he's going to run the penalty kill, and he's going to change the defense on the bench. We're going to add someone who will run the power play and an eye in the sky. We got to get those roles all fixed out. But Arnie's a huge part of what we're going to do moving forward. He's a great coach. He's a great person, as everyone in Winnipeg knows. And I'm thrilled that he was able to join our staff.
Fun fact, my wife's family actually billeted as Scott Arniel's son when he played in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League with the Dauphin Kings. So there you go.
Family ties.
So speaking of the rest of the summer, what does that look like for you now?
Well, we'll go back to Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's where our summer home is. And like this obviously came out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Right now we have the house in Dallas up for sale. We've got to plan a move back here to where we're going to live. We haven't, all those things will have to take place over the next little while. But a big part of my summer from moving on here is communicating with the players. And I reached out to probably about a third of them. Because it's July 1st, last Friday, Canada Day now. Today's July 4th, big day in the United States. Mm-hmm. So 4th of July is always a big celebration down there. I will have to be in touch with the community and a lot of communicating with the players. We've got to get them in the right frame of mind. When we hit training camp, we want them in the right frame of mind. We want them to know what our expectations are. We're not going to come to Winnipeg in September wondering what our expectations are for the team, what I expect from the players. That's going to be dealt with over the next 2 months, 2.5 months before we start training camp. So a big part of this moving forward is just communicating with our players, getting a good feel of them, getting to know them. I don't know their players very well here, clearly. I've never coached any of them, so it's a big part of my summer now is building a relationship and building an early trust with our players.
Well, it's not too often I find myself wishing a Canadian summer away, but I'm sure a lot of Jets fans are already looking forward to the first whistle, the first puck being dropped, and at training camp in the fall. So, Rick, really appreciate you taking some time out on what's a very busy day, and welcome to Winnipeg.
Always a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much to Rick for taking the time to sit down with Mitchell and do that interview. If you go and check out winnipegjets.com and then the social channels, there's tons of Rick Bowness content. I'm going to have trouble not thinking about the word bonus, bonus, and bonus here. And I think there's going to be some wordplay happening.
Another reason to just use the nickname of Bones, but we'll get there.
Yes. So, like I said, lots of content, winnipegjets.com on the video side of things, and a couple written articles too. And of course, this podcast. All right. Shifting away from Coach Bones, we just fly by the seat of our pants here. The NHL draft taking place on Thursday, Friday this week over in Montreal. The Winnipeg Jets holding 2 first-round picks, 14 and 29. Just your thoughts, Mitch, on what we could see from the Jets in Montreal this week. Obviously, there's so many different ways you can go. You could make 2 first-round picks. Maybe there's a trade that happens with one of those picks or both of those picks. Who knows? Lots of ways to look at this.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting for Kevin Cheveldayoff and all of his fellow general managers and really just management of all the teams is being able to be back inside one building, with that, all the team tables on the floor, all the GMs roaming around. Lots of things can happen in that situation. So I think when they get back to that after a couple of years of virtual, of course, it was what was needed to be done at that time. But I think everybody's kind of excited to be able to get back into that atmosphere, especially, Montreal, holding the first overall pick at home. I think it's that alone will give the draft a lot of extra pep. But for the Winnipeg Jets, like you said, 2 first-round picks, something that they've had before. They had 2 first-round picks in 2015, 2 first-round picks in 2016. They've picked both times in that regard. So it will be interesting to see what General Manager Kevin Cheveldayoff does with that. You mentioned the Flyby podcast earlier. On there, Mark Hillier, the Director of Amateur Scouting for the Winnipeg Jets, indicated that the Jets will be keeping that second-round pick that was part of it was a conditional trade with the New York Rangers a little bit earlier. It's actually St. Louis's pick, but basically all it means is the Jets do have a second-round pick this year. They also pick in the 3rd, the 4th, the 6th, and the 7th rounds this year. So a number of picks for the Jets to use after a few seasons, really, of it being, about 5 picks or so. Now they've got 7, and this is a group, obviously, with a lot of success at the draft, whether it's in the first round or it's in the later rounds. The one that I always think of is Connor Hellebuck, who won you a Vezina Trophy, who is a 5th-round pick. So, you just never know where these guys are going to be found. But I think it's going to be an exciting weekend. And strategy-wise, too, do you go by position? Do you go by who you deem is best player available? I know Kevin Cheveldayoff has said in the past that it's usually it's best player available based on their list, but we know how closely and securely they keep that list tight to the vest. So really looking forward to seeing how the weekend kind of shapes out. And of course, all that coverage will be on winnipegjets.com.
Yeah, the NHL draft coming up this weekend. And like you said, lots of coverage on winnipegjets.com. You'll be at the rec room for the draft party. I'll be in Montreal with a few others getting some video. Lots to come. And like you said, Flyby Podcast. If you want to check things out, Flyby Podcast, it's on our website, winnipegjets.com/flyby.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done. You can tell I haven't done this in a while. And then July 13th is free agency. That's next Wednesday. So a busy week and a half here for the folks at the Winnipeg Jets. And then I'm sure you'll hear from us after the draft. You'll hear from us after free agency. And then we'll go into that summer mode once again. And then, it'll be September and training camp before you know it. So,
yeah.
What about you, Mitch? You got anything planned for the summer?
Nothing really. Pretty light on the wedding schedule. I have one near the end of August at this point. So, it's pretty wide open. Probably gonna play my summer favorite sport, that being golf. I'll be out there a few times. So, looking forward to that. And then, kind of like I said at the end of my chat with Rick there, I'm just curious to see once training camp gets going how different things are or how it runs. So, but that being said, I don't know if I can wish away a Canadian summer. So I'll, it'll come when it gets here, and it'll be exciting when it gets here. But you still have to enjoy every day before then.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, everyone. I'm sure you'll hear from us in a couple of days after the draft. So in that time. Enjoy the summer. Hopefully it stops raining here. It's been beautiful the last number of weeks. So enjoy your summer, and you'll hear from us soon.
This is Big Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.
Proceed when able.